I'm ready. Mr. Beast's response is pretty bad. Ooh. Speaking of evil, just kidding. Let's see it.
Alright, took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, but here's my take on the Mr. Beast response interview.
Oh my god, holy shit, it has a 1.3 million views.
His evidence document and the now snowballing narrative that Dogpack 404 lied and the entire saga has been rife with misinformation from the start. Let's get into it. Lightning fast recap. Ex-Mr. Beast employee, Dogpack 404, makes huge allegations against the company and Jimmy personally. Another ex-employee tells his own story afterwards, and then more problems arise all over the place as everyone jumps on board. It becomes an internet trend to weigh in on the drama, give opinions, and dig up more.
Yeah, and again, this is all entertainment and dogpiling for entertainment. People are just like piling on it and digging through it and trying to get as much juice out of this lemon as they can.
Until,
classic
recently,
internet drama.
a YouTuber named Soggy Sereal does a lengthy video debunking some of the initial claims, doing the whole inverse contrarian criticize the critic angle, which is always juicy, with some good information and a fresh perspective. That video becomes a rallying cry for those trying to defend Mr. Beast, and right after, Jimmy goes on a long interview with Oompaville, which is what I'm evaluating right now.
2.5 hours? Not sure, not sitting through that, I'm sorry.
That interview is pretty much garbage and does very little to help him, despite being a softball puff piece. But I'm going to go point by point now through what I consider to be the most important parts, because that's what everyone's doing, and I'm going to do it too. So enjoy. First major point, and the thing that set the tone for me right off the bat, is his asinine take on censorship. He complains heavily about Reddit moderators and the fact that things speaking good about him were sometimes deleted off of the site, which is absolutely hilarious coming from him, because in the very brief amount of time that my personal source...
Oh yeah, I remember he was the one deleting comments. I don't know.
Was archiving all of his channels, we discovered that Mr. Beast YouTube, right, like the company Mr. Beast and his channel, was deleting tens of thousands of YouTube comments. Much more than that by now, actually. That was just this short window where we were archiving it. Blanket banning keywords. I completely forgot about that until like this little fucking thing. I do remember that. Why? It does make you seem really disingenuous that you're like, oh, I hate it that like people are deleting things off of Reddit. Guys, it's fucking Reddit. Reddit is not a great source. It is textbook censorship. If you don't speak the median opinion on Reddit, you will get deleted or downvoted to shit, which is like pseudo censorship because it like gets deleted and like flagged and like hidden. Like, I don't think that's a good gauge either. And retroactively cutting out dozens of pieces of his videos, which looked bad or showcased certain
scripted
artwork in their living room. I won't explain what that artwork is because it's not necessary right now, but the point is, Mr. Beast's own channel and company censored more content than Reddit ever could on the subject.
And he also cut out video parts too. Yeah, the poster.
And it's not even close. I have 2 entire videos about this particular angle, the cover-up, if you will, but suffice it.
Again, I understand why he cut it out. I do, but at the same time, it's not a great look. For the average common denominator, the average person who gives a shit about this kind of drama, it validates their schizo theory. That he's got something to hide. Yeah, like the art that he censors, and like there's a certain part in the pizza video, I forget what it's about, but like they cut out that part too.
To say the idea that deleting things would be something that annoys Jimmy is pure fucking comedy. Great start, but it's only up from there. They quickly move on to discussing why his own mother was the head of human resources, which is obviously incredibly stupid.
Having family in the business in that regard. Why would you put human resources as your mother? That's such a weird, uncomfortable like position to be as a mom, and it's a conflict of interest. Exactly. So if someone has a complaint and they go to your mom's either gonna sugarcoat it because she's your mom, or she's gonna not tell you. He's got a point. Family businesses are fine and dandy, but there's a lot of issues with them, and that is a very dumb thing. He said it was dumb because he was 19 when that happened. Chat, I don't give a fuck if he was 19. I'm sorry. The mom said, okay, I'm gonna do the job. Your mom's fucking stupid then. Your mom's not 19. Your mom could have said, no, that Jimmy, that's a bad idea. I hate people that do that. It's like, oh, you're 19. No, your parent is an adult then. You shouldn't have done that.
However, he gives an actual answer here that should be considered. His company grew fast. He asked her to do it. It was stupid at the time, and then things rapidly expanded. So he knows it was an issue. It's been
recognized. So if you're rapidly expanding, find someone else. Sorry.
Rectified, and it was a product of a fledgling business owned and operated by a teenage creator. Being objectively fair here, that's not a bad response.
And I hate the use of the word teenager when you're 19. Like, yes, technically you're a teenager, but you're over the age of 18, where you're considered legally an adult. Like, I don't like that.
Nor should he be canceled
for it. I like that wording.
Really. Next, they discuss the no means no policy that was in the leaked document. It's not really a policy, but the thing that he wrote for his company. Right. To which Jimmy's response is essentially, it's fine, the context makes it fine. But no, it's not fine. That's still a bad policy with bad wording that fosters unhealthy interactions with all sorts of people for all sorts of reasons. Businesses, external partners especially, you name it. Do better. That's still bad. Don't downplay it. Not a strong start. Next point that jumped out.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nothing burger in my opinion. A lot of companies do that kind of thing. No means no, like no means no, no means yes, like push them. Yeah, it's stupid. I agree that you have that in writing and you push that kind of like work environment where you make people do that for, to get the content that you need, but it's like whatever.
He was the do you use CGI portion of the video, and this is really truly such a worthless line of questioning. He obviously spices up the videos with CGI. That's just objectively true, which you may. I
also thought this was such a nothing burger. I genuinely don't give a fuck about this CGI crap. I didn't even criticize it. I just said it was kind of stupid that they were like, Dogpack making this part of his video weakened his argument because that was part of his argument. You know what I'm saying? They should have cut it out and not had that included in the video. No one really gives a fuck. Like, it's not hard CGI. It's like, wow, they changed the colors and they edited the explosion to make it more spectacular. Like, oh my gosh.
They may not interpret as manipulative for the audience. Fine,
I
whatever.
don't really care.
But why aren't we talking about direct influence and interference in monetary challenges that can have a material impact on the outcome? If that's written right into the contracts and everyone involved understands, from the participants all the way to the audience, that no matter what they do in a given competition, Jimmy might just rig it at the end with an unfair advantage for or against any other competitor at his sole discretion, fine. But you need to be open now about the reality of what you do. And what you do is just objectively not fair competition.
That's what I'm saying. I think when it affects actual people and you're screwing them over, allegedly, then you're allowed to criticize them. Like the explosion, like whatever. Like that's faking an explosion to CGI and having a good editor.
So far, I was getting a bad feeling from
fucking people over out of money and basically not being regulated because YouTube is not regulated like a normal TV show. That's a problem. But again, there's nothing inherently wrong with it because YouTube's not a broadcast. You can't report them to the, what is it called? The FCC or the FTC? You can't do that because YouTube it's not regulated like that.
The interview seems like a hollow attempt at sanitizing PR, but then we get to the hospital thing, erasing a section of a hospital in one of his videos with CGI. He calls it just a dumb mistake. Silly, brushing it off as hard as possible. But that's his job, to be fair, so this is understandable. He says things like, as legit as it gets, except one little editing mistake, or now I sound like I'm downplaying it, which is funny because he is downplaying it. That's the point of this whole thing. Now on to the boys versus girls video and whether or not they use their own employees in the competition. The word competition here is obviously a joke because he did several things like removing a key competitor on the boys team at a key time, which can absolutely impact the outcome of a monetary challenge. His explanation for the employee side was COVID, that's why we did it, but no one cares.
And there was also a bragging thing, not bragging, a bribing thing where he tried to bribe both sides, but only one of them he bribed, like actually successfully made them leave. Yeah.
He directly influenced the challenge with advantages and manipulations that can easily affect outcome. That is rigging. Even if it fails, giving one team a material advantage in a competition is an attempt to rig it. No one cares about the "I only had my employees in because of COVID" excuse.
But again, this doesn't apply because YouTube isn't regulated. I don't think I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I just feel like this is it's so hard to argue this in a court of law because it's a YouTube video.
Talk about stuff that matters, bro. Next is a segment about the video done by Soggy Sereal. Jimmy acts like Soggy Sereal went hard on him, which is absolutely not the case whatsoever. Soggy went hard against Dogpack 404 because that was the entire premise and mission for his upload. However, there's a really good observation by Oompaville here, where he says he's not defending you, he's just disproving Dogpack, which is a very good thing for everyone to be aware of. That didn't stop Jimmy from trying to use it that way, commenting on it.
Yeah, I do. Again, I didn't watch this whole thing. I only watched about 10 minutes. I didn't have a lot of time. But in the first 10 minutes, I didn't think that the guy was defending him. He was just having a different take, which is fine. You're allowed to have a different take and try and disprove the other side. That's the whole point. I would rather there would be both sides of the argument than just one side of the argument where everybody's sucking Jimmy's dick or the other.
Or messaging the video to other people. And they briefly go over the fact that Jimmy's reaction to this debunking video against his biggest critic was so poor, Soggy had to come out with an entire thread about it. But overall, the section isn't that exciting. Moving on, we arrive at the illegal lotteries with a very interesting statement by Jimmy. When asked the question, "Do you think you ran illegal lotteries?" Can you guess his reply? That's right. Quote, "I don't think we did." Shocker. But then he said,
that's what the lawyer told him to say. You can't have a definitive answer. You can't say yes or no. Yeah, again, I don't think he can say yes or no. The FTC's probably watching his every move. Like,
they have people looking into it trying to pull the footage. Yeah. Pull the footage offline, you mean, like you did for the 5 hours on Facebook and 2 videos that were previously unlisted but still available on the Mr. Beast 3 separate YouTube channel. One titled, "If You Buy This Shirt, I'll Sign It," and the other, "Buy This Before It's Too Late." If looking into it is deleting whatever evidence of it that you can find online and hiding it from the public eye, then yes, congratulations, Jimmy, you're looking.
Again, I'm not Jimmy. I'm not in his position of having to try and save face and to pull footage and to take away attention from my $1 billion company. It is very sus, but at the same time, you would want to reduce the damage. Yeah, it's not illegal for him to delete it because at the end of the day, if this goes to court, they will pull up this footage regardless. It's more so to save face.
Into it. He continues on, I shit you not, to say that he's trying to dig up all the footage of that live stream. Later even going so far as to state, "I just don't have the footage from them," which is
okay, that's a lie though.
A lie.
Yeah, it's a lie.
He does. And if he doesn't, it's because he deleted it after the allegations were made. The common vernacular word for that type of thing is cover up. You have to be kidding me with this. Ultimately,
which I don't understand at all. If you go to court over this, then they're gonna dig it up regardless. So why would you? You don't know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really trying to play devil's advocate in this situation. Like, why would you do this if? Why? What? Yeah, evidence tampering. No, I don't even think it's evidence tampering because it's going to be online forever no matter what. Like, they will ask YouTube to pull it up, which they have to do. Or they have to go and find the original footage. Like, it's just...
He gives a refund, which is good, by the way. That's what he always should have done to anyone who wants it. But this part of the interview massively harms his credibility in my eyes. Great to see that the people who were a victim of his illegal lotteries are getting a refund. Bad to see him being this deceptive, shamelessly, as if no one will catch it. Then we get to the crypto stuff. However, the answers given here are anything but valuable. Straight up, it's just him saying, I wasn't managing anything, but he's so deeply involved, this is a really embarrassing cop-out. He says, I don't want to fuck with this stuff or something like that, but he openly talks about doing things like bulk buying NFTs.
Bulk buying NFTs and advertising on a social account. I don't buy this. This is just my personal opinion. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You buying that many NFTs and then approving of posting on your own social media, on your main account, talking about, you know, these NFTs and these like coin drops. Again, it's not illegal. At least as far as I know. I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer, but it just doesn't look good for him.
Personally, on other podcasts, and everyone should go watch CoffeeZilla's video to draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, we watched our own.
Very good, by the way, and lays everything out in like a super understandable way. But yeah, it's a terrible answer. Zero credibility or sincerity, at least in my opinion. I wasn't managing anything. Dude, you were dictating. You were literally telling the fund, go buy this, and then they would.
I don't know about that. I don't remember him saying that at all. He promoted it, sure, but maybe someone told him to do that. We won't know until there's like court hearings and stuff like that. I definitely don't think he's innocent because he has to approve of, you know, doing a pump and dump and promoting crypto on his main account because that's his like influence.
How is that not managing anything? After that, we get a bunch of jokes about stuff that doesn't matter until he says, I want someone to deep dive on our charity books, insinuating that there's nothing to see and it would clear his name, while also saying that he's offered or tried to get people to do it, but they won't. Yeah, dude, they'll see what you give them to see. There is literally zero chance that you would ever give them documents that show illegal behavior if it did exist, making this the emptiest possible thing that he could ever say to try and make himself look better. It's a farce of an answer, and it should be called out for what it is, which is a waste of everyone's time. This is an issue that has always existed. It's not unique to Jimmy, Mr. Beast, or anything like that. And
again, lawyer talk. That's pretty much it.
It will always
He's not going to, like, admit to it. It'd be fucking stupid.
Exist, right? To be clear. No one trying to prove their innocence will hand over proof of their own crimes voluntarily. To act like this isn't the case is really just sad.
Yeah.
The YouTubers who decline to do this for him, as he puts it, aren't declining because they're deceptive or biased. They're declining because they know it's a worthless PR stunt that cannot benefit anyone, least of all them. Actually, it would benefit Jimmy and only Jimmy. And he has a flat 0% chance of having this be a trustworthy process, no matter if anyone did it. It's just a product of how the process is conducted. Full stop. This is a stupid thing to have ever talked about. Then came a section about the eye surgery video having charities unpaid, but I'll keep it brief here. I never focused on this ever because it's one of the things that bogs down the legitimate criticism.
Didn't Asmund talk about it and they ended up paying them money afterwards? After that all came out? Yeah, Asmund talked about it, then it ignited the whole debate about it and saying, like, why didn't he pay them? And then they came out. Exactly.
Delving into it then, still not delving into it now. After that, we get to the Team C's problem. Criticism saying things like, you only remove the equivalent of 10 hours of trash pollution from the ocean, which is very similar to the point above. Like the eye surgeries, this is another category of criticism that makes no sense and should never been legitimized or focused on. There are valid and invalid things to highlight about what Mr. Beast has done and continues to do wrong. However, this is...
Well, that's why this interview is 2.5 hours long. Like, they went through everything.
It's definitely not one of the valid ones. He even says, I'm glad we're hitting these at one point. Yes, of course he is. Because these are the most easily refuted critical points with the least impact and the lowest value. He should be thrilled that this is what people are talking about because it gives him natural cover against the more serious problems. Soon after, he goes into a monologue of all the best unknown things that he's done off camera. Some of these are legitimately good. I'm not going to pretend they're not. But the credibility of this interview as a hard-hitting way to debunk serious allegations is just completely shot at this point.
But he's not going to debunk this. I know he's being critical, and he's allowed to be critical, and he has the right to be extremely critical, but he's not going to immediately be like, yes, guys, I'm the one stealing crypto out of your wallet. I'm the one pump and dumping. It was me. I don't think that's going to happen, man.
I just like helping people style statements, which is more puff piece garbage, PR reputation washing.
Sure.
It is what it is. It's to be expected from someone like him, whose entire professional brand seems to be an amalgamation of how can I get more popular?
No, I don't think it's exclusive to Mr. Beast either. It's just how people handle it. You have to handle it with literal PR talk because anything you say, everything is probably them. He's throwing him questions and then he has to go through the steps of PR talk or the lawyer talk. He can't say anything.
Have people love me personified.
He said he was going to go to court.
Next up is ethical sourcing in the Feastables chocolate supply chain. And
that's so
surprisingly, okay, like ding, ring the bell. This is a very, very good answer. The explanation he gives is solid. There's receipts, there's plausibility, there's logic here. And if anything, the response
I don't give a fuck about this. I'm not going to lie. At the end of the day, the average consumer doesn't give a fuck where their chocolate is originated from. I actually had to write a paper on like the ethics of chocolate farming in West Africa, I think, when I was like in high school or something. Yeah, I had to do like deep research and I found out a lot about like unethical farming and shit. Yeah, like it's nobody really cares.
Gives more so leaves you questioning, why can't he give legitimate responses to the rest of the things that people care about? Basically, he has what seems to be a very good pipeline for Feastables production that does about as much as anyone could ever be expected to do in order to mitigate abuse or unfair practices in the worker chain. And he gives explicit examples of what those companies are, how the policies work, and therefore why concern over labor practices is genuinely unfounded. I know the internet is relatively split right now, and a lot of people don't want to hear anything positive about Mr. Beast whatsoever, but this was a good response with legitimate points that should be referenced by critics like me. Like, you can't gloss over this one. It not only...
But again, it's not even relevant. This is so irrelevant, but like, I guess good for you. Like, wow, you did something right, I guess. Again, there's so many companies that do unfair trading and slave labor. No one cares, man. I'm sorry. I know I get a lot of shit for it and people get annoyed. They're like, no, you should ethically do this. It's like, yeah, well, your phone is made unethically. Your monitor's made unethically. Like, everything's made unethically, unfortunately.
It needs to be said. It needs to be emphasized. After that, there's an entire section on mold in Feastables, which again is...
Man, the fact that this happened right after, too, and it's not even fake. I initially didn't want to cover this and talk about this because I was like, surely this was just a fake story, right? Like the mold and stuff. Turns out it's real. I was like, man, they really fucked him on this, huh? Right after the allegations.
From the things that matter, it gives him a perfect opportunity to yap about how wrong the critics are, and the fact that the Lunchly controversy even exists in the first place is a net negative for the product.
What do you mean? They had to pull Lunchlys off the shelf?
Aspect of YouTube's golden boy ever having to face the music for the real things that he's done wrong. If you criticize 100 different things and 90 of them are useless garbage, it's very easy for the target of that criticism to get away from the 10 things that do matter by pointing at the 90 things that don't. I don't know if I've ever seen a more perfect example of that happening in real time on social media than this. He even goes off on a giant tangent about how the next Feastables product they're launching is great. What is this, a promo? He should be facing scrutiny over mass deletion of evidence, illegal lotteries, manipulating competition.
You know what's another really smart move is that they made the video 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours long. I think that was like unironically a really smart move because nobody's like 99% of people aren't going to sit through the whole thing. I would find it hard pressed. Like, there's not a lot of people that would. If it was 8 minutes, people would pick the shit apart of. Like, they would pick it apart to like hell and back.
Outcomes, worker misconduct.
Yeah, less size the better. Exactly.
Malpractice, abuse, all that stuff, right? Like, what is this? Next, we get to the explanation about Delaware, a registered sex offender who was working in the video production part of the MrBeast empire. And this is where it just gets. I don't even really know what to call it. I already said it was sad, so what's worse than sad? Depressing. He claims he hired the guy from Best Buy, and he never knew, but let's break it down. After he was hired, and after he appeared unmasked in a video as a Best Buy employee with the name tag Delaware, he then goes on to do a separate video sometime later with a physical mask on under the alias Zorro. Why?
This is what I don't understand. If you are 19 and you are, I was a kid and I didn't know any better. Okay, I understand. You're quote unquote a child at 19, but whatever. Why did you do another video with him masked and like making him stand out like a sore thumb? Why did you do that? Was that like an artistic choice? It's just weird. I don't know.
At this company, they knew. Period.
Yeah.
They knew. I won't sit here and tell you that Jimmy knew, right? I'm not going to make a definitive statement like that. But when Jimmy is appearing in a video alongside his own employee, who is now wearing a mask and going by a second layer alias because Delaware isn't even his real name to begin with, and now he's got a mask on as they call him Zorro, you cannot possibly expect anyone to believe that you didn't question why you were concealing this guy's identity through multiple layers in your massively viral public video.
It's just sus,
especially
man.
When the normative baseline of this entire company is just point blank clout chasing. Either A, Jimmy is lying, or B, he's in.
Well, everybody who makes content technically clout chases, especially when you're that big and you have so many people following you. At the end of the day, I do believe that 99% of people are clout chasing. It's just hard to say, it's just MrBeast that does this. It's just MrBeast that does cover-ups and does softball interviews. Have you seen mainstream media? Of course you wouldn't go on public television and admit to being wrong. It just makes sense.
Idiot who didn't even get to the bottom of why his own employee was so concerned about being in a video in the first place, despite supposedly appearing publicly in prior videos with his face showing. Remember, that's the whole defense here. Why his employee is now hiding his name and face from the camera. He never asked about it. He never heard any of the explanations that were clearly percolating all throughout his company. And he just had no knowledge of the situation until recently. Yeah, mark that one down as not a chance in hell. And also, to be clear, I don't think Jimmy's an idiot. I think he's actually rather intelligent. Keep in mind, this is the guy who had extremely suspect artwork on his own wall in the pseudo frat house he used to make videos from, and then retroactively pulled all of that footage out of his old videos as soon as the controversy hit.
I watched a clip of him talking about the poster, and in his words, he said something like, I just thought it was anime. And I'm like, it was such a weird answer, but I guess normies wouldn't understand it because it's like, anime, first of all, anime doesn't look like that. Shadman is not. It's more of a cartoon style than an anime. What poster? I'm not gonna say it. It's just like, it was just weird. Yeah, it was a weird non-answer, but again, normies wouldn't really understand what he's talking about.
And has stayed deathly silent until now, really, in the aftermath. It's understandable, to be sure, but let's not go thinking this interview is anything other than someone skirting the issues that actually matter. Finally, a while later, they get to a real question again about how to prevent dangerous challenges from happening in the future, similar to the Jake Weddle situation, which for anyone who doesn't know, but most of you probably do know, otherwise you wouldn't be here watching, Jake Weddle was basically in solitary confinement for a challenge on the channel, with sleep deprivation and sensory bombardment in a way that is completely unethical and inhumane.
I still don't understand how you can beat around the bush with that guy. I don't know. That guy must have been an A-list actor if he was faking being traumatized by that stuff. I don't know.
His answer is, well, those other people endured the same bad things for the sake of money, so he just reacted badly. Even making sure to say explicitly, didn't go long enough to where we got a video, so we didn't end up uploading it. But bro, didn't go long enough to where we got a video is not the explanation for why that experience was never uploaded publicly to YouTube. They had to send in a psychiatrist who confirmed that the patient, in this case Jake Weddle, was suffering immensely. And we're supposed to listen to this guy yap and yap and yap in this interview like, oh, it didn't go long enough to get a video, that's why we didn't upload, which is psychotic when you consider the circumstances. He uses all sorts of subtle psychological manipulations, by the way, constantly. Here's an example.
I mean, he's a really good yapper. I don't know what to say. I can't argue with that. He's a really good spokesman. Really good.
For people that don't believe me, okay? Here's an example. I'll play it right
Politician, Jimmy for the future.
I'm not trying to just like disavow everything, like, you know what I mean? Like there was one woman who we had, when we were filming, we had obviously tons of feminine care products and stuff like that, but there was one woman who was allergic to the feminine care products, and we didn't have allergen-free ones like tampons and pads. And she told someone, I don't know who she told, I haven't been able to find it, but I mean, I believe that she did, that she was allergic, and they didn't obviously do the logical thing, which is tell us or just drive to the local Walmart and buy some and give it to her. And so she wasn't able to get, you know, feminine care products in a reasonable amount of time, which is unacceptable. And these, like, so I learned a lot of little things like that.
Did you catch that? There was a woman who told someone, I don't know who she told, I haven't been able to find it, but I believe that she did, that she was allergic. And they didn't obviously do the logical thing, which is,
God damn, he's really good at yapping. I could barely catch that, man.
Tell us, or just drive to the local Walmart, buy some and give it to her. And so she wasn't able to get feminine care products in a reasonable time, which is unacceptable, end quote. Do you hear it when I emphasize things differently? Simultaneously casting doubt on what she said. I couldn't find it, but I believe her, which necessitates that you now consider, why does he have to just believe her? Why couldn't he find it? And then they didn't obviously do the logical thing, which is tell us, which puts distance between him and the problem.
Yeah, it puts the blame on the person to not say it, yeah.
Sort of othering this guilty
or
party
to say
as
it, rather.
them, not us, because they didn't do the logical thing, which is easy, just drive to Walmart. And he uses this kind of tactic throughout the entire interview. Once you catch on to it, it's very obvious. Again, to a degree, this is reflexive, and it's always going to happen when someone feels under the gun or pressured. But Oompaville is so incredibly soft on him, it's very clear to me that this is just his default setting. This is how Mr. Beast operates regardless of the context, because Oompa's not even pressing him. He's not hitting him with any different...
Well, Oompaville probably had to, you know, sign to a bunch of agreements not to press on him. Let's be realistic. Nobody else interviewed Mr. Beast officially regarding this shit, right? Yeah, like he had probably a pre-approved question list. You can't interrupt Jimmy and like ask him questions. Like I don't know. I watch Oompaville's content, so like it's hard to say.
Difficult subjects or countering when he spins a narrative.
He probably has him sign a contract because Jimmy probably has hundreds of lawyers at this point, right? That work for him. Again, this is all speculation, but he probably agreed to he probably agreed to like a bunch of shit. He didn't sign any NDAs or anything in this video. I don't know. I'd have to see it for myself.
Which would have made this kind of reply a lot more understandable if he were. Brace yourselves, though, because in the next portion, he actually debunks something. He talks about unions and gives names of the unions his Amazon show has used, which is fantastic. But confusingly, he brought...
Yes, because Amazon is actually considered like a television subsidiary. They are under the laws of a TV series. Like, of course there's a union, right?
Is over it extremely quickly.
I would hope.
Despite this being one of so far only 2 points that were anything other than useless. The first was Feastables' production chain and ethical practices. Well done with that answer and the detailed clarity from it. This would be the second time to do that, right? Do the same thing again, except he doesn't. He very quickly moves on. He goes on to say, we called 1,950 contestants, couldn't find a single broken bone, which is oddly specific because the allegations from multiple mainstream media sources, like the New York Times, for example, were about not getting medication properly, people passing out, not receiving adequate food, sustaining many injuries but not explicitly broken bones, which makes me wonder why such a sculpted, empty response is being given. It's like he picked something that he knew didn't happen, even though 500 other bad things happened. It's like, I couldn't find any evidence of this bad thing happening because it
I investigated myself and found nothing wrong. I don't abuse my mods.
didn't happen. It's like, yeah, no shit, bro. The bad thing that you picked because it didn't happen. Go figure. All the other bad things that you're not talking about did, though. But then we get this great little interaction right here.
After like that claim came out, like we literally called 1,950 contestants of the 2,000. We couldn't get a hold of all 2,000. I couldn't find a single broken bone. Yeah, online it's being claimed there's dozens. I mean, there's so much or even disinformation like that being spread. So like, which makes it hard for me to just come out and like talk about things like the pad thing and other things where, we did mess up on little things and there are definitely things we could have done better. But then there's just like, it's mixed in with like all these crazy outrageous claims and it's like.
Did you catch it? Now it's a definitive. We did mess up, referring to the same issue where just a little while before, he said, I don't know who she told. I haven't been able to find it, downplaying and distancing himself from it as much as possible. However, now that there's another claim he can focus on, the tons of broken bones claim, which he probably already knows is false and was barely even said. It wasn't even one of the mainstream criticisms that were ever levied against him or Beast Games. Suddenly he's not trying to distance himself from that tiny little thing over there. Now that tiny little thing over there is the way by which he distances himself from this new thing.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, it's an adept lesson in manipulation.
Yeah, he's like... Why does he address it, though? If it's like an issue, and it could legally be potentially an issue, why would he address it like that? Again, this is all really smart PR talk. Sociopath? I don't think it's a sociopath thing. I think it's because he's being told what to say. Yeah, it's just such a weird thing. Like the brushing it off and then like being like, oh shit, like, oh fuck. Like at the end there, like when he was saying, he's like, oh yeah, well, in the end, nothing ever really happened. Look at this disinformation and misinformation, disinformation.
Not a masterclass, mind you. Maybe he's off his game a little bit. An adept class. After that is a big chunk of time about how he gave everyone that competed $2,000. Look at me, so generous. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. I give people money, blah, blah, blah. Same stuff he's always been bragging about. Same stuff he's always been capitalizing on. Give money to a few people so you can harvest much more money back from the masses because the masses are hoping to be one of those few people. It's classic capitalism here. Honestly, I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, again, it's a nothing burger. It's not illegal. It's douchey, but it's not illegal.
Just own what you're doing.
Yeah.
As the interview wraps up, Jimmy says,
but you're not going to. Why would you own to doing it? Like that'd be stupid.
There were definitely a couple questions you asked me that I was uncomfortable about, but that's got to be a joke, right? Because the real questions that would have made him uncomfortable would have been something like, right after he said trying to dig up the footage and don't have the footage. Oh, cool. Then why did your team delete multiple instances of that footage you just said you're trying to find and don't have?
I still don't understand this at all. This is the biggest smoking gun to me. If, like, deleting the footage, but somehow you're not guilty. The court will decide. Maybe you are innocent. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Right after the controversy started. That's a question that would have made him squirm a little bit and be uncomfortable. It all winds down with this big thing about how I'm not perfect. There are real things to criticize me for, but those aren't the things he chose to talk about. He chose to focus mostly on a bunch of things that don't matter, because actually digging into the stuff that does impedes his ability to sweep them under the rug, which is precisely what is happening. Successfully, I might add, which is an obvious thing to do and an obvious outcome given how the narrative blew up and how polluted it got afterwards. There's a final phone call where they briefly address the poster on the wall, the controversial artwork, but his whole explanation
right at the end too.
of we had a ton of anime posters doesn't really hit the ear very well, because in that footage, I'm pretty sure that's the only thing on the entire
all cartoons are anime. That's right.
living room wall. So yeah, maybe they've got stuff elsewhere, but this just feels like more distancing. Jimmy says he felt like Oompaville went easy on Dogpack when they spoke, yada yada. But that's just who Oompaville is. He's an easygoing guy. He doesn't go for the throat like that. And that's the reason Jimmy spoke to him. Like, what? Dude, what?
Again, I don't dislike Oompa. He is a chill guy. He's not gonna rip at like his... He's not gonna twist his nuts to give him an answer and like go off script. Maybe he didn't sign an NDA. Maybe he didn't sign a thing where it told him not to ask certain questions. But he wasn't gonna go out of his way to like rip him apart. He's not CoffeeZilla. If CoffeeZilla had an interview with Mr. Beast, it wouldn't happen in the first place.
The last thing, the final shot taken on the ending phone call, was about crypto, and it's a good one. It's almost like Oompaville woke up and realized, damn, I just let him have an unchecked PR platform yesterday and he didn't really answer anything properly, except for two things, and threw down some real questions. So props to him, kudos to him. This final phone call was really good. Turns out Jimmy's entire explanation of I had nothing to do with crypto, go figure, was bullshit. He did command where the fund invested. This time desperately trying to distance himself again from that by saying he doesn't know anything about crypto punks. But the fact is, he has whatever level of control over the crypto investments that he...
And also, that's another thing that I thought was weird personally. I saw another clip of this talking about, oh, I named the wallet, what was it? After some band or some rapper. He's like, I don't even listen to them. It's like, that's supposed to be that's your response? Like, oh, I don't, the Wu-Tang Clan? I've never fucking listened to those guys. Why would I name my wallet that? I'm like, that's not an answer, bro. That is not a good answer.
Wants to have. He ordered them to invest in something, and they did. That's called controlling the fund, bro. He squirmed when asked about a tweet regarding a crypto token called Super, and the whole thing wrapped up with him just dodging as hard as possible. The charity...
Yeah, so why did you use your main social media to promote a coin like that and then pump and dump it for and then there was a charity one? I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Auction question was the pinnacle, distancing, downplaying, and avoiding, to be expected. But he just floundered when the crypto stuff came up, contradicting himself openly and really proving that if Mr. Beast went to CoffeeZilla for an interview, he'd get annihilated.
Well, that's why he didn't respond to CoffeeZilla, because this is probably going to be a legal matter if I had to wager a guess. Again, if you really want to make a difference, report him to the FTC or whatever. I think it's the FTC. Yeah, like, again, I don't know how it works. It seems really suspect. I don't think it's good to pump and dump. I don't think that Mr. Beast should publicly make such, posts and then, have pump and dumps. This is the FCC? God, I get those confused. The FTC and the FCC?
Ultimately, he said, to be honest, or being completely honest, like I think 50 or 60 times, he made two valid points, one of which was backed up very, very well, by the way, and properly explained, while the rest was just a PR stunt with limited value and low credibility. He spent his time wisely dodging certain topics and was never asked some of the more incriminating and point-blank questions to which there...
And people will also criticize Upper Echelon for saying that he was smart for dodging questions, even though he's really going hard on him here. Because people are so, like, they want you to be completely, like, off the deep end. You're not allowed to, like, criticize and, like, praise your enemy at the same time when they do something right. They want black or white. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of shit. No! Alana loves Mr. Beast and she's defending him! Like, shut the fuck up, man. I remember I got a lot of flack for being critical of Dogpack's evidence because I thought that the CGI bullshit was irrelevant. And I also said that I don't know if the gambling on YouTube is legal because it's not held to the same standards as like television broadcasts. And people were arguing me to death about that thing. And I was like, bro, like, go talk to like someone who knows what they're talking about. I did my research. I realized that YouTube is not held to the same standard. That's the whole problem. That's why there's kids shows with like really disgusting shit on it on YouTube Kids.
He is no good answer because he's being deceptive. And he came out of this having probably moved the needle slightly in his favor, maybe. But hopefully the wider audience can see through this thin veneer of authenticity, I'll call it, in favor of the calculated reputation rehab-focused person that was really sitting there on camera, attempting to come across as far removed from any serious wrongdoing and doing a decent job of it. I don't know. Once you see through it, you can't unring the bell. So once you see through it, you see all of it. But if you don't see through it, then yeah, I don't know. Maybe it looked genuine. Maybe it looked like he was being legit. I don't know. I was incredibly disappointed by the answers, and I hope someone manages to get more out of him, but it probably won't happen.
It's not going to happen. If you actually wanted actual answers, you would have done an interview with CoffeeZilla, but he didn't even give answers to him.
He just hunker down and move on from this right now, especially because the third-party investigation that was done is the necessary step to rekindling the confidence of big brands. Like it or not, what he did with hiring that law firm and having it be like outside the company, third party, like the way he did it is actually the correct way to rehab himself for the charity stuff or for sponsorships, right? Like it will work. But yeah, that's only after the internet and all the regular people lose interest, which is basically happening right now. I'd say he's fully passed the entire thing inside of 2 months. Maybe. And
also people are getting fatigued with the same information being regurgitated a bunch of times. People were like, oh my god, watch the Oompa video, look at this, watch the whole thing. I think people are getting fatigued. I do. I think so.
Even one. Unless he sues. If he does that, the rest of us will have free content for the next year. If he sues, I mean, it's open season, man.
That'll be sick.
I don't think he will, but we'll see. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. A special VPN deal, locals to Patreon, new website, merchandise, and more. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. Question everything, especially concerning Jimmy. And have a nice night.
Yeah! Guys, check them out. Yeah! Down, down, bam, bam. Esmond and Alana are gonna milk the Mr. Beast trial like crazy. I don't think it'll be public, and I don't think it'll be streamed, but you never know. That would be extremely funny and entertaining, but I don't think it'll happen. Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. I could be wrong. You never know.